And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. I know Joe loves that intro, so that's why I did that. You got to go ahead and check us out everywhere you can. But it is, again, the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here at Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do whatever it is you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and we just dropped a new episode starting a new season of Inside Sports Fantasy Football this week. So check out what Chris Ardieri has to say, and I'm hoping I can get Joe on an episode or two this year as well at Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Plus, if you can go ahead and check us out today at Lakerholics.com. Laker Tom has a great new article up right now for you to read, and a lot of conversation between him, Mongo, and also as well, Mongo Slade, I should say, and also Jamie Sweet. There's a great conversation on one of our latest videos that's available today at Lakers Fast Break. Plus, check out Jamie Sweet's 5 Things articles. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention LakersBall.com. They've got an outstanding array of Lakers groups right there for you. Ox1947, aka Joe Soro, is right there for you all the time at LakersBall.com. Plus, our good friends at the Hoopheads Podcast Network. If you can support all of that, plus give us that big subscribe down below Joe right there on YouTube. Please go ahead and subscribe today so you get the latest notifications on when we go live with a new show here at the Lakers Fast Break. And if you can do all of that, it is sincerely appreciated. Well, I mentioned in the description that is the dog days of summer. I know kids are going back to school. Mine are back in school. I know a lot of kids are back in school as well. I know that it's still 100 to 110 out there, depending where you're at. I know it is in Vegas, still hot galore. I know that the dog days of summer are still winding down, and training camp is still in the distance, far away, but there's still some things to talk about. I know the Kevin Durant drama we touched upon and how that could affect the Lakers. I know Laker Tom and I had a great interview regarding that. We had an awesome conversation on that earlier this week, so check that out on the YouTube and also as well Twitch and of course wherever you get your podcasts. But what is there else to talk about? Well, the city where I'm living at now and have been for many years, Las Vegas, is now dropping their odds on the upcoming season. They're not waiting for a Kevin Durant trade. They're not waiting for a Kyrie Irving trade. They're not waiting for a Donovan Mitchell trade. They're not waiting for any of these extra trades to go through, and I'm sure they'll adjust accordingly as soon as they're made, because that's Vegas. They're giving their thoughts right now on exactly what teams are going to go ahead as far as have their win-loss record so that people can go ahead and start betting on it this season. And the interesting number for Lakers fans is 44.5. So I've got the guys here today for the group chat, and we're going to talk about, is 44.5, 44 and a half, a fair or unfair number for the Los Angeles Lakers as far as going into the season as of now. So we'll talk about that. Plus, Bill Russell, it was announced today that his number posthumously is going to be retired throughout the league, although players like LeBron that have or are currently wearing the number 6, they will be grandfathered in so that they will not be retired until those players with the number 6 leave those various teams. But yes, the number 6 will be retired throughout the league, and also as well there'll be a signification on the court as well in regards to, I think, a clover leaf, if I'm not mistaken, plus the number 6, if I heard correctly. So a great tribute to Bill Russell. But that leads to the question, should there be other numbers that should be retired throughout the league as well, including a couple that are well beloved amongst Lakers fans? That's what we're going to touch on as well at the back end of the show. But guys, we're here now to talk what Vegas is talking about, and that is the Lakers. 44.5 plus everything going on with the win totals for everybody else in the league. So I'm going to go ahead and run it down here for you real quick. But here today to start off with his thoughts on what's going on with everything at Lakerholics.com is the man indeed. It is Laker Tom. And Laker Tom, before I start running down the names before I start running down the list of one-loss records for everyone else, 44.5 is the current number for the Lakers right now. If you went and walked into a Caesars or relating sportsbook, because Caesars has a lot of friends and also other places here on the strip that they go ahead and go through. But if you were walking to a Caesars related sports book right now and you bet on that number, is that a fair or unfair number? You're back on mute, my friend. And I don't have, he's back on mute. So I'll get Joe right in here for you. So while Tom fixed that glitch, that happened earlier, and we just couldn't figure out what it was because he came on, it sounded fine, but technical issues again. So while Laker Tom works on that, it is a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today, right here at Lakers Fast Break, and of course, LakersBall.com. It is Joe Soro. Joe Soro, as Jeff Green puts it right now, 44.5 is a generous number considering they won 33 games last year and no better this year. So yes, that would be 11.5 games better than they won last year. Is that a fair or unfair number?
As a currently constructed team, that is a lot. I don't believe they would win 50, let's say 45. If I was betting on the over, I would bet the over if there was a Kyrie deal or even a Miles.
Well, that'll change. If Kyrie is traded, immediately Vegas would up the odds. I think even the Indiana trade too.
There's some truth to that, but it is Kyrie Irving. If Kyrie Irving plays 50 games and LeBron and AD play 50 games, they might come under that. I'd say it's from a booking standpoint, 44.5 is a really good number. I would, if I was a gambler, I would bet the over because a little bit of me tells me that they're going to be better than they were last year, just by instinct. Because I think ultimately they have to make a deal here. It's creeping into that range right now more and more. And I know there's nothing going on, but I think the more nothing goes on, I think I'm getting a feeling like it's going to have to happen now. Instead of somebody just saying, hey, we're going into next season with what we have and we're done. No one's saying anything. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the 2 picks. Nets would want 2 picks. Lakers don't want to give the 2 picks. And they're just going to play chicken until one of them says, okay, we'll do this deal. That's, I think, where
Lakers
we're at.
already have said they would. They said
Allegedly.
yesterday.
I don't know necessarily if I believe the sources. I think the sources this summer have been a bit.
It was Jovan Buha, who is probably as connected as anybody is with the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers obviously put that news out. That was their camp that released it. And, it's kind of funny because to me, let's say 45 wins just to get rid of the half so we don't have to talk about that. So 45-37 record on 82 games is not bad. That's 7 games above 500. And that's based upon the roster we have right now, which Twitter is having a whole lot of fun looking at the starting lineup and the closing lineup for the Lakers right now without a trade, which obviously include Russell Westbrook and all of those iterations. And yet, even with as ridiculous as that roster would be, which is we have 0 shooters. I mean, 0 shooters. LeBron is the best shooter on the team. It's really, they're counting on getting like 3 shooters out of THT and Russ. And they need those 3 shooters very badly because if they could plug those 3 shooters in, this would be a pretty good off season, especially considering how far they had to go and how, and what they've done to get younger and I think more athletic. And they have a great new head coach. So I think, you look at those things. I think that Ham factored into the fact that a lot of people that you can estimate that they'll get 45 wins. So that shows a lot of respect for the simple fact that if LeBron and AD are healthy, like Joe said, the over is a good bet. If they're not healthy, I mean, then frankly, what you may be betting on, if you really believe in LeBron and AD, which like I do, I think most Laker fans in their heart do, although the injuries have caused a little bit of ripple of concern. But generally, if you believe that a healthy LeBron and AD, a healthy, rested, and motivated LeBron and AD, with even a reasonably good roster, has a shot. And so like you said, Gerald, I think that the odds would go up dramatically if they made the Pacers trade or the Nets trade. Now the Nets, we've accelerated the situation by coming out or by having people release the information that now we're ready now to give 2 picks. We haven't talked about whether they'll be protected or how they'd be protected and so forth, but that's the signal, very clear. And the next signal probably is that the Lakers are also talking to the Pacers, because they're obviously trying to put pressure that the KD situation may be in a stalemate where, they may go into the season with that situation. And so the Lakers definitely don't want to be caught. They want to be patient with the Kyrie. There's no doubt that Kyrie is their number one target. They want Kyrie and Joe for Russ and THT. And that's a trade that the dollars almost match perfectly. So neither team ends up with additional luxury taxes. And it's a 2-for-2 trade. So it makes it easy to balance on the rosters and so forth. So I think the 44 is a pretty good bet. Well, by the way, Gerald, what is I haven't read the numbers. Who's the favorite? The Celtics or the Warriors probably, or what?
Celtics.
55?
All right. Well, funny you should say that. So we'll get into that right now. But I have just 2 observations real quick. First on, when it comes to the Lakers at 44.5, Vegas is damn smart. That's all I'll tell you. They sure do their damn jobs really, really well. I will tell you that I'm just so, they always seem to amaze me. Every time I see, maybe I could go ahead and put some money on something that I might be able to go ahead and get a little, here or there, whatnot. They go ahead and do this, and it's right spot on where I would probably say with a healthy LeBron and AD is where it would be at, right around 44, 45 wins.
But that's what we've all said that over and over, but we forget it because of how horrible last year was.
Yeah, and that's again.
I mean, it's
as
like
Jeff
leaping
Green
over your head when you want to think positively, and then you remember, well, Jesus, I went through all of last year being positive and being wrong every goddamn podcast that we had. So it's crazy. You don't want to. It's hard to hope that these guys are going to remain healthy.
And Jeff Green said it best. I mean, that's considerably up more, 11, 12 games now we're getting to the point than what they did last year, which that's probably where if you see a
they
cut
blew
line
12 games last year real easily.
Yeah.
We could each name games where, we had big leads and blew them or just did stupid things and so forth.
Terrence Harvey, by the way, said Jovan said he didn't report the 2 draft picks. It's just what he believes.
It's his opinion. His opinion.
Well, that's common sense right there. That Brooklyn is not going to do anything until the Lakers offer both picks. I think that's pretty much common sense right now. So we said that on this show 100 times. I will say
that's just the negotiating process. They haven't reached that point yet, and that's why Pelinka keeps preaching patience, and he's right.
Well, the thing I also wanted to go ahead and cover is that I had mentioned previously that I thought that there were going to be no 60 wins teams this year. Maybe if on the Eastern Conference, but in the Western Conference, because it's such a murderer's row, as when Jamie Sweet and I broke down as far as which teams we thought right now were better than the Lakers. It just goes to show you that even Vegas thinks that there's going to be a murderer's row beating up on each other in the Western Conference, just because of the fact that there's no 60-game winners. The closest is the Celtics at 54.5. Then you have the Suns at 53.5. You have the Bucks at 52.5, and the Warriors at 52.5. Clippers are at 51.5. 76ers are 50.5. Grizzlies are 50.5. Heat is 50.5. Nuggets are 49.5. Mavericks are 48.5. I love the fact that they're all halves. Timberwolves are 48.5. Hawks are 46.5. Nets are 45.5. Raptors are 45.5. Bulls are 44.5. The Lakers are 44.5. And the Pelicans are 44.5. So all 3 of those teams are in a group at 44.5. Then you have the Cavaliers at 42.5.
How can all of these be statistically a half?
Maybe they're talking about...
That's impossible.
Maybe the
That
NBA will
isn't
bring in a
possible.
tie. Maybe they'll
How
bring
many
in a tie.
numbers did you just list there?
Well, they're all a halves for a reason. It's for monetary purposes to go one way or the other as far as higher or lower. But we'll get into that in a sec. The Cavaliers are at
Oh,
42
so that's
and a
a
half.
Vegas thing you're saying.
Yeah, it's a Vegas thing. It's to spur you as a bettor to go over or under the number.
Oh, I
The
guess.
Knicks
Okay.
are 39 and a half. Either that or they
Right.
know something about the
I see.
maybe going ahead and adopting the NHL ties since the NHL.
So that
doesn't do
eliminates the
anymore.
ties then.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding on that one. But
Right.
Knicks are 39 and a half. That was kind of surprising. Trailblazers are 39 and a half. Hornets are 37 and a half. Wizards are 35 and a half. The Jazz are 32 and a half. Kings are 32 and a half. Pistons are 27 and a half. Magic is 26 and a half. Thunder is 26 and a half. The Pacers are 24 and a half. The Rockets are 24 and a half. And the Spurs are 24 and a half. So you have three teams at
Three
the bottom
teams
of the list.
running for number one.
Yeah, 24 and a half. I want to talk to you first, Joe, and ask you first if there's one number, if you're back in Vegas when, the city where you just dissed me on last weekend because, you were so busy and you just didn't have time to go ahead and have a drink. I'm just kidding. Had to burn you on that. Yeah, I'm kidding. No worries, my friend. But if you came back to Vegas this weekend and laid any money down, is there a intriguing bet for there? Because I see a couple that I would actually put some money on, and I'm thinking about putting some money on this weekend.
Not really.
The Grizzlies stands out to me at 15 and a half, and the reason why is because Triple J is out half the season after surgery. So
I don't.
That's the first one for me.
It used to be. You never know these days. In the NBA, it's become so inconsistent who's playing real well year in and year out. It's inconsistent on who. I actually am trying to think what superstar actually plays 82 games during the season. Do we have any? Did Giannis play 82?
Russell Westbrook. It was the.
That's not a superstar.
He once was.
That's a tragedy. I don't. You don't know. You don't know who's going to take. Who's load managing throughout the year? The load management isn't this the fault of the player. It's actually management. It's coaching. It's ownership that have. It's hilarious how they've kind of taken a back seat in that and blame it all on the players. I actually think it's from the higher ups that are demanding it because they want to make sure something's good.
But then the league doesn't like it because of the fact it's all about the TV.
And that's the part where I think Adam Silver, whom I'm a big fan of.
Good point, Jeff. Giannis is close to 80.
I've been very impressed with him since he's become commissioner. However, lately he's been. I don't want to say he's failing, but he's not taking the initiative enough on certain things. And I think this main issue with player availability needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed aggressively. And until you get some kind of consistency with these stars, Ja Morant, who's young and boisterous and exciting, and how many games did he miss? 15.
Well, that was legit. I'm gonna say I don't think.
Well,
that was
everything is legit. Every injury is legit. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just having a hard time understanding how in 2022 we have next level travel, next level medicine, next level therapy, and a pampered bunch of babies, and they're still missing games. So how am I supposed to assess a betting line when I don't know who's actually going to play during the year? It's difficult. I don't know how it. I think the only safe bet these days is betting on a starting pitcher that's having a good year. I'd say you want to that right now in terms of my betting, unless I'm just doing something for fun like a Super Bowl or whatever. That's really the only bets I place is on a good pitcher. I'll put a good amount of money on a pitcher.
Well, again, the Grizzlies stick out to me because Triple J is already out with foot surgery for 4 to 6 months.
Oh, right. And then at the same time, you also have to factor in the Grizzlies snuck up on people, right? And Ja's the flavor of the year right now, and I'm not saying he's gonna not become a better player or play the way he has, but pressure. I've seen pressure change a lot of stars in the last decade. Guys like Dwight Howard, guys like what's another example? Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is another guy. That was went blank on Kawhi Leonard. I was thinking about him the whole time. The pressure changes things, right? I mean, he's won. Dwight Howard was a Hall of Fame player, but we're not used to seeing. At least I'm not used to seeing great players kind of fall off sometimes when they were showing such promise and next level skill. I don't know. It's too difficult to handicap. I don't know who's going to play and how they're going to play, if they want to play, and I'm not even going to take a risk. I'd rather do blackjack.
You give the man a simple question and he gives you an unsimple answer.
Because I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I try to pull one out of my ear on that one.
But that's for sure, indeed. But before I get to you, Laker Tom, Jeff Green said right back in the 60s, he agrees with you, Joe, by the way. Wilt Chamberlain would average 48 minutes a game. Actually, he averaged a little bit more because remember the overtimes. So he actually averaged like 48.5, a little bit more than that. On those years, he was playing every single game because he was playing every single minute, including the overtime. So
yeah, but that was then and this is now.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, but I know it started with the San Antonio later. Right. Popovich sat down.
Rick Popovich started this load management crap.
Yeah,
he softened the league.
Yeah, it's just you can't. The problem with that whole thing, it's
he whined about. Yeah.
Listen, there's two issues that people in Joe's corner who are angry about the star players not playing when people are buying tickets to see them play, not knowing, and then also the empowerment of the players to demand a trade, a year after he signed a 4-year contract. The problem is those things are both really difficult things to legislate, and they're things those are things that the Players Association will die for, because let's take the injury and the load management stuff. It's all related to injuries, man, and then you're so tied up between HIPAA requirements and other things on that you're not going to be able to legislate that. There's a reason why it's become a difficult situation. It's because it comes down to people's personal health and players' personal health. And it's career defining for them. So they're not going to give on that in the negotiations.
Well, let's get back
then when you come down to the empowerment of the players, I think we're seeing that the marketplace is making the necessary adjustments. You got two superstars, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, that their value has been so diminished that there's limited that they can't trade them. The Lakers are the only one that will trade for Kyrie. He's damaged his brand so badly that the 29 other teams don't want him. And one of the 29 have him under contract for next year. And in the same thing with KD, they can't trade him anywhere. You can't get value for him, even though he's got a 4-year contract, because he's become untrustworthy. He has damaged his brand so much, just like Kyrie has, that you don't need to make an adjustment, because player empowerment understands that character is one of the things that people really can count on, and is one of the things they're going to value when they're going to give out a $200 million contract for him. And talk about bad judgment. Joe Tsai got to think about his general manager. Actually, did his general manager put those three things, or is this Joe Tsai's decision to go out and get this big three and get rid of that great young team that they had developed and it was doing so well? It was such a fun team. Brooklyn was a great place to watch basketball. And then all of a sudden you come in here and you brought these three guys in, and man, all three guys have character problems. And whoever made the decision to bet on that character basically deserves a good deal of the responsibility for those problems. Now, a lot of those things, I think Josiah actually, Durant went over Josiah to get James Harden on that team. And, Joe's got to look at that himself, and then there's a point where obviously at this point, he's not going to, he may hang on to Durant and just out of spite, if
He
nothing
may
else.
go to Philadelphia like James Harden.
Well, isn't,
That's the latest rumor on that.
Durant not only wants him to be traded, he wants to trade him in the division to their two rivals that they play 4 times a year.
Well, let me ask you this. Getting back to the Lakers, 44.5 wins. That's something where, yes, Lakers player empowerment aside.
It's good for 8th. They're the 8th best team in the West.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to say. That puts them right at the point as far as playing is concerned. That means they have to have a healthy LeBron and AD just to get to that number.
Yep.
That's
Exactly.
what makes it really
that's
more,
the same thing.
more
They're
nervous
counting
for
on every
Lakers
other team having healthy superstars and healthy key players.
Joe?
They were a month ago, or I'd say 3 weeks ago, they were a plus what was it, a plus 1100, which was 6th out of the 30. And then now what were they what were they today? What was the numbers today?
That puts them right in the about 8th in the Western Conference as I think Lakers.
So I don't know how. So what changed in 3 weeks?
I think the estimation that the Lakers were going to be able to make a trade. So with each passing day and the Lakers not making any movements, I think that the pessimism amongst Vegas, I guess, bettors as far as
we thought we were going to have Kyrie or Turner by now.
Yeah, so I think that's probably why that you're seeing this,
that they were going to have that happen.
Response.
What are the chances that the Nets say we're not trading anybody?
Yeah, that's a possibility as well.
I don't think that's a possibility. I think that KD deliberately, when you throw the coach and the general manager under the bus the way that he did, saying choose them or me, and then Kyrie coming in and saying that, oh, I don't hate anybody. I'm a good Christian and I love everybody. Hallelujah, which is really not even saying anything it was almost like a parody of him with KD, both of them saying it, and I go back to that conversation that they were having on Kevin Durant's podcast, where they were all laughing about, well, who's really going to coach the team? KD, will you coach it? Or it's probably going to be a joint venture. We'll help Steve out. Jacques Vaughn was a good assistant coach. He can do some of the things. James will have some ideas. Kyrie will have some ideas. We'll figure it out. If that doesn't say something about a simplistic naivete and total lack of understanding of the value of coaching and of leadership by those 3 people in that conversation between KD and Kyrie. And then KD goes off to London. He's off to London.
Hanging out with James Harden.
Hanging out with James Harden, who is he wrote the book on how dummy, how NBA superstars can force a team to trade you for dummies. That was his book. And immediately we get these things happening. Can they? I don't think there's any way in hell that they are going to keep Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. I think Joe Tsai wants both of them gone, including James Harden. Never wants to see any one of those 3 again. But he's going to demand a lot. He will hold them out, and pay them and won't let them play. And hang him out there until he gets at least what he considers to be fair, which means for the Lakers 2 picks. That probably can happen because KD may be stuck in limbo for a long time. So I think there's a chance we might see something in a week or 2. I think definitely before the middle of September, because training camp everybody keeps saying now that training camp is the soft deadline. And the Lakers are ready to negotiate at this point in time. They know exactly what they want. They know what plan A is. They know what plan B is. They don't like plan C or D. And plan F is total failure, which is keeping Westbrook. So
I got another number that if you were interested in, might want to look at. Yes, I know it's the Kings, but 32.5 for the Kings for a team that has an edict from their owner to go ahead and at least get into the play-in. That's something I
Mike
think
Brown
is
coaching them.
Mike Brown coaching them. Yes.
When you
Insertion
feel
joke.
bad about the Lakers, just think about the Kings and you'll feel
Yes.
better.
30, I think they can at least get to 38, 39 wins, 40
I heard
wins
I
possibly.
heard a Kings fan talking on Sirius XM the other day, and he was, I guess they just tore down Sleep Train Arena, which used to be where the Kings played.
Used to be the old Arco Arena, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a horrible, terrible place with horrible acoustics, so it was extremely loud. And this was during the heyday when the Kings had,
Well, you
They had a
want an
great team.
arena that loud.
pardon?
You want an arena that loud with
No,
the
you
cowbells
do,
and all that.
And
back
by
in the day.
accident, it was one of the loudest arenas, and they were the most boisterous fans. Those games were those were some of the most exciting Laker games, and unfortunately for the Kings, they happened to be in the same division as the Lakers, so they never got
And
in. But that
Robert
was living in Northern California. I went to a few of those games just because it was always easier to get a ticket at Arco than it was, for when they come and play the Warriors. But it'll be the Kings. The Kings have some talent there. I think their big mistake was they should have traded Thibault. They should have kept him, and instead they should have got Turner instead of the other guy.
You talk about the Sabonis trade. Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton, I think, is going to be a good solid player in the league.
Yeah, he can't play defense, man. He's not going to be an
Should have
impact player.
drafted Doncic.
Oh, that's the first mistake. That's the biggest mistake that they should have made. Right.
Well, I like the kid they got last year. They have a guard. They drafted him ninth, I think,
from
year.
Baylor. Yeah, he's pretty good. But also, who they drafted this year, I think he's who they drafted this year. I really think that he can help the team. Whether or not it's enough to get to where it's a play-in situation, we'll wait and see. But I do think 32.5, as far as, even though Jeff Green says it sounds about right for the Queens, as he calls them. I think it's a funny.
It's a funny thing when you mentioned earlier that how the Vegas seems to have a very good sense of taking the emotion out of the odds.
This is true.
And the only thing that creeps in is a little bit of Laker fandom that always makes those odds a little bit heavy, favoring.
Well, you got to remember, when it comes to the Lakers, Tom, and you know this too, Joe Soro, it's the same thing as with the Lakers. They make sure to make it as attractive as possible for the Lakers, because Lakers fans will come up from Los Angeles. They'll make the drive like they do every single weekend, and they come here and they place money on a lot of things, and they place money on bets, and they place a lot of money on the Lakers. They get more movement on the Lakers than any other NBA team, and it's not even close. And this is conversations that I've had with many people behind the scenes.
And those are usually fans rather than intelligent bettors.
Yeah. They will come up seeing the numbers that got posted this week. And I will just say right now that I think 44.5 is a very attractive number for them to go ahead and get a lot of action on. So, yeah, absolutely. Just looking forward to seeing what people's thoughts on it. If you have thoughts on 44.5, if that's a good number.
What was that? What was the estimate last year? What was the betting estimate last year? I wonder.
I think it was much higher. What was 40? It must have been. I'd have to look that up, but I would assume it's been higher.
That would be an interesting one to look up. We sure underperformed that, whatever it was.
Once again, it is. The Lakers Fast Break. I've got Joe Soro and Laker Tom. Please go ahead and check out Joe Soro today when he goes ahead and travels the world of LakersBall.com. And, of course, Laker Tom right there with his great articles. Jamie Sweet hopefully will join us here in a bit. But until then, I wanted to go ahead and ask you guys one last question before we head on out. And maybe hopefully Jamie Sweet can join us before then. I want to go ahead and say right now that the NBA has gone ahead and done a great thing in as far as retiring Bill Russell's number 6 across the league. Although if you are wearing number 6 and you're an active player, i.e. LeBron, you do get grandfathered in, and you will be able to continue to wear the number 6 until you leave the team or you decide to change your number, whichever comes first. My question to you, and I'll start off with you, Joe, on this, is that, again, I thought it was a great move, something that we talked about before in our tribute to Bill Russell, who is a tremendous part of the history of this league and will continue to be so for eons going forward. I want to hear your thoughts on as far as if there's any other players, because I have two in mind that have passed away that I think should also have their numbers retired, and then two that I would think that when they go ahead and pass on, that they would have their numbers retired as well.
I don't really have a feeling on it either way. I know that a little bit of it is you can't retire everyone's number that passes away. Bill Russell is a little different, a little special. He was able to do special things at a special time, not only on the court, but off the court. So there's some understanding there. Let's say Jerry West. Jerry West is the logo, I think.
He is one of them.
Jerry West is the logo of the NBA. I'd say that's a pretty retired situation if you were to ever have one. You're literally on every jersey, and you've been on it for 5 decades, if not more.
That's better. It's better than being your number retired. I mean,
yeah.
Jerry wouldn't want his number retired at this point.
They just renamed or they just created a Western Conference and Eastern Conference final MVP, and the trophy's name is Larry Bird and Magic. And after a while, you start to kind of dilute this special treatment. His is different. It's Bill Russell. It's, again, the times he was playing, his effect, his value to the league. He was a pioneer like no other. It's just, in this particular situation, I think it's right, but I don't think they should start snowballing into retiring every great player's jersey from here on out. Otherwise, you're just going to start. It's going to start looking like the NFL Hall of Fame. You got a bunch of really good players that are now going into the Hall of Fame, and you don't want to dilute it. And I feel like a little bit of this remembrance or this giving credit thing is starting to kind of get out of hand.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so are you okay with Bill Russell getting his number?
Yes, I'm okay with Bill Russell. Bill Russell, 100%. We talked about this.
So let me point out two right now. Okay, we'll put Jordan and West aside because they were probably the first two that come to my mind that are still living. Kobe Bryant and Wilt Chamberlain. And then Tom will ask you the same question.
Yeah, see, Wilt Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Jerry West, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird. Like, when does it stop? Are we going to retire every jersey now? I think
there are 99 numbers you can use. So.
I know, but look, Bill Russell was he was the guy that defined a league. He defined it at the beginning of it, defined it at the beginning of television when it started to skyrocket. He was the first black head coach, won 2 championships as a coach and a player. There's a lot of factors into that you have to weigh in and say, look, we have to honor this guy in this way, but you can't dilute his retirement or his jersey number, and then all of a sudden start retiring another 10 or 12 guys that are probably worthy, but it's going to start getting, again, it's going to start diluting that whole. Next, we're going to have to wear 4 numbers on our jerseys. That's really all that's my only thing on that. I don't care either way. I think this is not something I'm thinking about. It's just not. I will say this though, because I know on Lakers Ball just about an hour ago when I was on there, there was word of the little Celtic logo, the little clover, was going to be put on the jerseys, and people almost had a heart attack. And
we're going to put it on the court, I believe.
Right, and that rightfully so. That kind of Laker fans are like, I don't want that on the court. But in this situation, I will make an exception because Bill Russell wore a Laker jersey with Kobe's number on it when he passed away, and he wore it more than once. So in remembrance to that, I have no problem putting the green turd logo on the court because of Bill Russell. God bless you, Bill Russell. You're watching. Retire the number, honor him. Great. Just make it special, NBA. Stop with the overly credited type thing that seems to be going on a lot right now in sports, in all leagues.
I love how the fact that you give such a poignant speech and then go ahead and still get in the shot as far as the green turtle.
I just don't like the Celtics. I never.
Nobody
never
here
did.
does, but I just love the fact
I
you just
loathe that team.
That's a beautiful, well thought out, really great statement, and I still love the fact as a Lakers fan.
I don't like the clover on the court either. I don't want to see it on our uniforms.
Well, you're going to be seeing it for an entire season, my friend.
Oh,
but
Jesus.
Your thoughts on this? I mean, is there any other?
I feel the same way as Joe does to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bill Russell is. I agree with everything Joe says. Bill Russell was a great, and even though he was a Celtic, I really respect and admire him as a great. One of the things that I do really love about him most is the way he became great friends with Kobe and with Wilt. Some of the best conversations that I've ever heard between two legendary superstars were conversations between Bill Russell and Kobe and Bill Russell and Wilt. Just nothing but hearts and respect for the way that they played the game and the type of competitor they were on the court, and the ability to joust each other back and forth. So I think it's a great honor for Bill. I do agree with Joe though that it gets to the point of ludicrousness. I'm sitting down here and I'm looking at. Did you know that the All-Star Game Most Valuable Player award is the Kobe Bryant Award?
Yes.
That is what a disgrace for Kobe.
Well, the reason why
something better than that.
Well, the reason why he got it was because he tied. I believe
I know,
Bob Pettit for
but
4.
it's a meaningless game.
But the Finals MVP is already
It's
taken.
the most un-Mamba-like thing the NBA does.
Well, what would
Name
you do?
anything else
What would you change it to? What would you change it to? Can't change it to Finals MVP because Bill Russell. They already gave that to him many years ago.
Who's the regular season MVP?
And this is what I'm talking about. See, Tom is validating what I'm saying.
But
he's validating.
It's just Kobe.
He's validating what I'm saying.
I draw the line at Kobe.
It started this, and it started this. You know, let's honor Kobe.
To have something better than the All-Star Game Award.
And then it goes into getting more awards for a conference final, and then you're naming that a trophy, and you're naming this trophy, and then it's Larry O'Brien trophy.
I agree with you on all of the other things.
It's just getting to the point where you're like, dude, I don't even remember. I don't even know whose trophies what anymore. I used to remember.
Don't forget the sponsored trophies. Don't forget the sponsors. Got to get the sponsors.
Larry O'Brien, Vince Lombardi. Those are the boom. Now I'm like, okay, well, wait, what did they win? What's Larry Bird's trophy? Oh, it's this one. Oh, and
it's like baseball stadiums. There's only 2 stadiums left that haven't sold out their corporate name. Do you know what they are?
I know the 2 NFL ones.
What are they?
The 2 NFL ones is Soldier Field in Chicago and then Green Bay in Wisconsin.
Yeah, but isn't Chicago moving
the only
out of
2 that
haven't getting a retrofit
for a corporate name?
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this.
The new Steelers name is atrocious.
Oh, that's true.
Oh.
I heard that. But let me ask you this, Joe: Is Soldier Field getting a retrofit, or are they moving out of Chicago?
There's word from the mayor there. They call her Beetlejuice. She's talking about trying to. That's what they call her. She said something about they want to build another stadium there. I don't know if they're retrofitting.
Okay, because it's always. I've heard recently
that's not me.
Up in the air. Okay, but go ahead. What are the 2 arenas that are not
Soldier Field and Lambeau Field?
Okay.
Every other NFL arena has sold its name.
Well, what about the arenas here in the NBA? They're almost all of them are also. That's tens of millions of dollars. Why would you pass that up?
You were the guy who's been hammering the horn for our
Wrigley Field for a reason.
Dodger Stadium never took one.
Why are they Wrigley's? Because of chewing gum.
I want the Crypto.com MVP award. That'll be next.
Well, I mean,
They'll
everybody's
realize,
saying,
wait a
"Oh
minute,
man,
wait
I
a
wish
minute.
it stayed the Staples Center. I wish it
Hold
stayed
it.
the Staples Center."
We're going to have
That's
to tell
actually
Larry
a
Bird.
company
We're going to have to
too.
tell Larry Bird and Magic Johnson that we're going to have to take your names off of these awards, and Bill Russell, because these awards are now corporate opportunities. This could be the All-State MVP award. Played
It's all
in
about money, my friend. It's always about money.
When it's about the
played in the
money and your
progressive NBA finals.
Go
and
ahead,
that
Joe, go
excuse
ahead.
is why things are messed up.
I agree,
That
Joe.
excuse, it's about
I
the money,
agree.
but they paid the money, but it's a business.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
Why did Staples not hit us like that? Why? Well, it's a new arena. It made sense. They had the staple and it looked cool. Nice. Now we got this crypto.com. I feel like I'm watching an 80th bowl game now when I hear that name. I remember there was
bowl
what was
games,
it,
they
the
do need to-
grandfurniture.com bowl.
Well, this is
You know?
okay. Let me ask you this. Okay, college
Sleep
football.
Train
Real
Arena.
quick sidebar. Since you said this, wouldn't it be great if they expand the playoffs to utilize the bowl system and change around, because all these useless, meaningless bowls that they have always in the month of December that nobody cares about would be much more meaningful if it was like hosting like first and second round games for an expanded college playoff system. I've always said that would be the best way to go, and again, make a ton more money for
They
these
already do
communities
it.
that
It's
host
just
these bowl games.
2 games or 4 games or something like
Well,
that.
you're adding 2 more games to the eventual winner. Whoever would win it would add in 2 more games if it went to a 16-team format. I don't think that would be unfair. And you again utilize the bowl system.
I love the fact that UCLA and SC are joining the Big Ten.
It's because it's about money. It's about money. It's always about
I
money.
mean, hey, why go to the NBA anymore? You can make just as much money and go to college.
What
You
a
don't have to
concept.
play 82 games or 16, 18 games. You can play 10 games.
Joe, I mean, your thoughts. I mean, I've always advocated for that, but I don't know if that's going to go anywhere.
The special part about college football was every game meant something. I would go as far as 8. I wouldn't go 16.
I would go 16. Let me tell you why. Because it is so much more attractive to see, let's say, a first round.
It's
match
not
between,
though. You're turning
well,
it into
hold on,
another.
Let me finish. To say, let's say an Alabama versus the number 16 team. Let's say, I don't know, whoever would be falling. Let's say Texas falls to 16. Number 1 versus 16. Wouldn't that be a much better watch as far as the mid whatever bowl that they have in early December than a 5 and 6 team going against a 6 and 6 team?
I don't want to see
Just
either.
look at March Madness. All I have to do is replicate it.
I don't want to see
Replicate it
either.
for their sport.
I'm just.
I don't want to
throwing
see
that out.
either. I wanted to see Power 5. If they wanted to do a Power 5 situation where the top 5 power conferences win, then you have 3, let's say 3 wild cards, make an 8 playoff setup, and that's it. But we never. It's
We need
never
to go
enough.
back to the old system where the West representative would have very little competition, so UCLA could win every year and face whoever was the best from the East. Nothing to it.
Well, the Rose Bowl
Best-
was the Big
best
Ten and the
formula
Pac-10
completely.
champion.
Look what I started.
I remember
When the
both.
Lakers could draft all of the players in Los Angeles, automatically were entitled to be Lakers. When there was territorial drafts. We need to reinstate that.
It's like everything else. Let's use Hollywood as an example. Hollywood squeezes every ounce of every type of franchise with remakes and sequels to the point where you've almost diluted that whole franchise into garbage. Terminator being the
Well,
main one.
the Hulu thing is coming on now.
Like, why can't you just enjoy?
Have you had a chance to interview that guy yet?
Who?
It's up to Hulu PR. I've contacted Hulu PR and
About
I'm
what?
waiting for a response. In regards to, I'm trying to reach out to the individuals that worked on the upcoming Hulu documentary regarding the Los Angeles Lakers, the real story of the Los Angeles Lakers, according to what we're saying.
real
I want to
story.
go ahead and
These guys get what? How much did they get for the crypto.com name? And they're still penny pinching? Is that what you keep telling me about money?
No, I'm just saying I've reached out to Hulu PR.
So now they're doing a Hulu
Because
show to
they
make
interview-
more money?
That money, they don't own the arena.
All right. Fair enough. It's all about money. It's all about money indeed. But once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. Yes, I'm trying to reach out. I'm not sure if I'll get a response again from Hulu PR, but I'm trying to go ahead and get an interview with one of the people behind the upcoming documentary that's coming out next week, The Real Story of the Los Angeles Lakers. But before we head on out, I want to just clarify again, if
We
Michael
already know the real
Jordan,
story.
whenever he passes away, you're saying no one, Joe, not even Michael Jordan, should get his number retired.
Michael Jordan's logo's on every jersey. Kobe.
Well, yeah, but
Kobe,
that's not because of the league. That's
I know, but when do you
Nike.
stop? When do you stop?
I'm
When
just
do you
saying,
stop
I'm just
now?
asking. And Laker Tom, you said Kobe, right? And that's it.
I just think something has to be done for Kobe because what a joke. Magic and all these people are getting all of the big awards and Kobe's in the All-Star game. Come on.
Kobe is fine.
You know
Kobe,
what? I'll tell you another joke is Phil Handy saying that if Kyrie Irving was 6'6", he would be
terrible.
Kobe Bryant.
That was terrible.
First off, Kyrie Irving doesn't even show up
That's
for the
why
game.
he's not a head coach.
And secondly,
that's why
he
he's not a
doesn't
head
play
coach.
defense.
Right
And
there. That
thirdly,
showed you right there.
He's not a killer.
No, that was. You're right, Tom. That was. I was
I
reading
love
that and
Phil
I'm
Handy,
like,
but that was ridiculous.
what are you talking about, dude?
Give some respect.
There's only one
It's
guy.
about Mamba
There's only one guy.
mentality. That was what set Kobe apart, is his mentality. Not his offensive moves, not his skill set, none of that stuff. It was always his mentality.
Well, if you guys have thoughts out there, please let us know at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter, of course, right here on YouTube. Please subscribe today if you're not a subscriber already so you can get the latest notifications on when these guys, or also as well Jamie Sweet, who told me he wants to go and do a late night Lakers Fast Break next week. Also as well, want to go ahead and let you know that I've got Sean Grice. We're going to try and see if we can get him on a future episode. But this is episode 499. I've got episode 500 already in the can. I'm going to drop it for our friends on podcasting outlets and YouTube here over the weekend with my first guest, Boomer Pearl. And I think that's going to be a great conversation that we had, that we touched upon. But that'll be number 500. My first episode, my first guest is going to be the 500th guest. So it'll be a great show indeed. But these guys hopefully be back on Sunday night, to go ahead and talk about what's going on with the Los Angeles Lakers. If anything changes, if anything comes about, we'll go ahead and report it here. But please go ahead and subscribe today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It is sincerely appreciated. You love the guys right here. I mean, as far as what their opinions are, if you hate what they say, if you love what they say, if you're angry at what they say, please just let us know. Just talk to us, reach out to us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. And of course, where they're always hanging out at, Lakerholics.com and LakersBall.com as well. But guys, great conversation. I left with a smile on my face, even though Joe or Tom, next time you're here in Vegas, come by and say hi. Come on, man. Come on, guys.
Hey, man, I invited you, and you're like, hey, man, I got my kids, and
well, they were
I'll be there.
resting. They had school starting the
Hey,
next
man,
couple
I'm
days.
not messing with family stuff.
I told you, Metro Pizza, meet me there. They've got great food, but you said you already ate. And then I said I was going down. Okay, you didn't want to eat. I said, okay, later on. I said, I'll stop by the Excalibur. But oh no, we're hanging out. We're going all over the strip now.
Better to do, Gerald.
What?
What else would you have better to do in Vegas than see Gerald?
You know what? There you go. Absolutely. Nothing better than that. There you go. We could bet on the Lakers at 44.5.
Could have been a hot set of dice, man. It could have been a hot set of...
I was around a bunch of video game
Could have been a hot
boards.
set of anything.
At Evo indeed. Blue Magic says one final thought here, Gerald. With you in Vegas, I'm upset you didn't get the Kyrie trade done over Summer League. You know what? I tried, but getting those guys on the conference call, we heard is already trouble when they do it in Vegas. But I always want to try getting the Kyrie deal done. But
they were busy hanging out with Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, we heard about that one. Yes,
I still think it's 40-40.
Can't drink and drive. Yeah. Can't drink and drive.
40-40-10.
Even in the land of free drinks. What'd you say, Laker Tom?
40-40-10-10. 40% Kyrie, 40% chance Turner, 10% chance somebody else, 10% chance we won't get anybody. We'll be.
And then also, don't forget the 1% chance that Russell Westbrook signs a 5-year extension with the Lakers just to piss everybody off.
There's a 0% chance of that.
Well, there's one chance. There's a 1% chance, but it would be a sign and trade, an extend and trade.
Anyone who pays Russell
wouldn't wanna be
Westbrook
kept with it.
other than the minimum after next year should be not a executive or anything.
Well, here's what's going to be funny. What if nobody is willing to give him the minimum?
Well,
to put
guys,
him
on a
the
serious
roster?
note, though, before we head on out, all laughter aside, Lakers 84 wants us to go ahead and head on out as far as thoughts on speaking of Kobe. Can you guys briefly share where you were and your reaction to when he passed? I actually shared my thoughts on the air. If you look in the archives, both on, I think, Facebook, YouTube, and also where you get your podcasts, I will say that I was driving alongside Maryland Parkway. I just was heading towards near the UNLV area when my wife called me, and she got wind of what went on first at TMZ, and then I just had to pull over the side, and I was just crying like a baby. And it was really hard getting through those first 2 episodes. Laker Tom was with me, and he was just devastated. We were both devastated. It's still in the archives. You want to go ahead and check it out. But yeah, I had the Kleenex here right next to me. It was just an awful experience. I also had an episode with Rafael Barlow as well, talking about it. TJ Johnson talking about it. Yeah, it was just a terrible time indeed. But before we head on out, Laker Tom, if you want to reminisce, and then Joe, I'll hit you up as well. Laker Tom, I know you already shared your thoughts originally at that time, but going back, where were you and what were your reaction when he passed?
Well, it's so funny because the thing that had changed so much about Kobe after his retirement was he became a girl dad, and he had these 3 daughters that he just loved playing basketball with. When I heard the news, I was on my way. I'd coached for 15 years in AAU and CYO basketball, and I'd coached my grandson. I'd coached, and I was coaching my 2 granddaughters, and they were both playing that day. And I was on my way to a tournament. I was
Just
doing
like Kobe.
exactly the same thing that Kobe was doing for his daughters. He was on a flight to go to a tournament, and I was driving when I heard that news. And we got there. Both my granddaughters wear 24 as their jersey numbers for obvious reasons. Geez, it was just one of those things that you can't believe, because we didn't get the news straight. We got the news first that there was an accident, and then there was the news that Kobe was dead, and then there was another news that there was another player on the plane, and it was
Rick
all
Fox.
Yeah, you heard about Rick Fox.
Confusing information, and I get there to the tournament, and I'm wondering, are they going to have the games? The girls are all there. Just, have you heard the news? And everybody is just, it's, to me, I remember, I think it was LeBron that said this. He said that, I don't think I've ever seen Kobe happier ever in his life than he was with his daughters. And, I once joked to my wife, complaining about getting confused because there was a sports basketball story about, and it turned out to be about girls basketball. This was like 20 years ago, before I was woke. Okay. And I was complaining because I said, Sam, it's taking up this room for real sports, was wasting it on his women's basketball stuff. My wife says to me, she says, you don't want your granddaughters to play basketball? I didn't have any granddaughters then. As it came, I spent 10 years coaching girls basketball, and I loved it. And it was fabulous. And I understood everything that Kobe loved about being able to watch his daughters. I playing basketball with and coaching my granddaughters is the same thing. So that I'll never forget that day with Kobe, and I'll never forget Kobe. And the memory that I have of Kobe is a lot more the guy who is involved in his daughter's basketball career and loved coaching and loved teaching those girls the Mamba Academy. Those are the years that I remember most about Kobe, even though I lived through everything from his rookie year on.
Joe, I know you put it in the chat, but go ahead and let us know. I've never actually spoken to you about this, so let me hear your thoughts before we head on out.
So I'm in my office. My buddy, who's lifelong, I've known him for 35 years. We're both Laker fans since we were kids. He goes, "Hey, did you hear about the helicopter crash?" And I'm like, I went on Google right away, put helicopter crash, and then I saw a picture of smoke and helicopter crash. That was all. I was like, yeah, so. And he goes, they're saying that Kobe was in it. And then 5 minutes later, I read it on TMZ. And as soon as I saw that, I knew it was true, because those suckers have some kind of, they have that whole area tapped. Without trying to get too morbid here, but 3 months earlier, I was talking to my other buddy who I've known for 22 years, who's a massive Kobe fanatic. We were talking about how we were waiting for him to have a boy when we were actually not paying attention. Gianna was actually going to be his heir on the court. And I remember talking to him. This is 3 months before the crash. I said, hey, we're going to be watching the WNBA draft, and we're going to be watching Gianna play basketball. Like, this is going to change women's basketball. This is going to be Gretzky-esque with what he did in the NHL. I go, this is going to be big. Like, we're going to be watching the WNBA draft and watching it's going to change everything. He wore that orange hoodie. It sold out in 13 minutes. I don't know how that planned out, but I think he just wore it, and people saw him wearing it at the Atlanta game at Staples, and they said it sold out in 13 minutes when people saw the sweater. I said, this guy's him and his daughter are going to change women's sports. 3 months later, what we lost, and I try to put things in perspective. I understand Kobe was just a basketball player. He wasn't Albert Einstein. He wasn't Jules Verne. He's not Elon Musk. He didn't do something that changed humanity, right? But what athletes do, guys like Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Kobe, these type of players, is these are the last of the gladiators. These are the last of the Hectors and the Achilles from folklore. And people want to watch and admire out of this world ability. And that's what these guys had. And then on top of it, if their personality extends it even more. I mean, even John Sally was talking about how he got Kobe out at a nightclub one time because he loved Sally. Sally loved him. And John goes, bro, can you just come out with us? He came out, and this is John Sally, and he's got a bunch of other NBA players that are stars of the NBA. But he's like, John Sally's talking, he's like, dude, when Kobe comes in, it's like, it's different. That guy was different. That guy was worldly. He won an Oscar 17 months after retiring from the NBA. This guy was about to do some stuff, and we lost it all. It wasn't just about sports. It wasn't just about movies. It was about a guy that transcended everything and everyone and in any way, and brought together people. He brought people together. One of my friends said something, because as soon as Kobe passed away, COVID hit 2 months later, and it's like everything was just bad. And he said something, and he goes, maybe Kobe was the one that was keeping everything together. And I was like, man, that was just like, it hit me like right here. Usually it hits you in the heart, but this one hit me in the head. I was just like, man, why'd you say that? That's just, because now I'm thinking, man, if I just wish that tournament was 6 weeks later, everything would have been grounded. He would have never been on that freaking helicopter, you know? And it's the 5 stages of depression. And I kind of got mad at myself for being so distraught by it. I mean, it's someone I never even met. Why do I care so much? I've cried for 2 people that are not family members and friends. Magic Johnson, when he got diagnosed with HIV, and Kobe Bryant when he died. So if anybody wants to know how big of a fan I am of the Lakers, you know now. You
there
know
you
why
go,
I'm,
Nate.
I'm passionate about it, because those are the guys, man. And I've shaken Magic's hand. That is a real dude. That is every bit of every goodness. That man is a treasure. That guy kicked the bejesus out of HIV, whatever. He killed it, and he told it, "You ain't getting me." How do you not admire that? How do you not admire that? Inspired everything in that. And Kobe was in a different area, but could have likely done just as big of things. And that is, we'll never know what we lost. That is the ultimate tragedy of this. And of course, more important than any of that is there's a mother who lost her daughter and her husband, and siblings that lost their sister. And that's the part that always, that's the first thing I always think of, is when someone passes away. It's like, how does a mother bury her child? You know, that is the, or a father bury his child, whatever, parent.
There were nine other.
And then you have, okay, and then you have on top of that, someone lost both parents and a sibling. Both parents and a sibling. A mother and a dog and a sibling. It's like your mind is, it's just not, it's not there. And it is still sad to this day, and it's one of those things where you just live with it now. It never really changes the feeling.
Well, we appreciate you sending us out that question, Lakers 84. Blue Magic also as well, Terrell, and also as well Jeff Green. You've been great on the chat. Truly appreciate everyone out there as far as hanging out with us once again for the Lakers Fast Break. If you have thoughts that you want to share in the coming days and weeks in regards to where you were at and your thoughts on Kobe and his passing, please let us know. We'd love to hear them. We'll actually read it on the air if you want, right here at the Lakers Fast Break, through at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter, LakersFastBreak at yahoo.com, and of course, always right here on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook as well. But everyone out there, again, I've got more great shows ahead. This is $4.99. 500 will be dropping wherever you hear this podcast, and also as well wherever you see this podcast on YouTube, because I've got that coming up this weekend, and also as well this weekend on Sunday, we've got another great new edition of the group chat, hopefully on stage as well. But guys, truly appreciate your thoughts on the Lakers, 44.5. Of course, also as well on a possible retirement number for anyone else after the announcement that Bill Russell will get his number retired throughout the league. And of course, your thoughts on Kobe as well. Blue Magic says, last but not least, thanks again for the programming. Gerald, Tom, and Joe, we are all still healing from the loss. Yes, I don't think we're going to get quite over it for quite some time. I just don't think it's going to be something that we're going to be able to get over for many, many years. It still stings. It still feels hollow. It still feels with us every single day as Lakers fans. And as you can see behind my shoulder, he's always there every show that we do right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But everyone, thank you so much for being a part of today's show. We look forward to dropping number 500 and coming back for another group chat coming up this weekend as well, right here